Things happen.
Hey, Jim, we'll take care of the next couple of minutes. I'll just talk to you.
All right, it's 10 a.m. We have a long meeting today, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. First item on the agenda. I will note that we have a forum with, Commissioner McGinn on virtually, the remaining commissioners here in person. Next item on the agenda, the disposition of minutes from the March 4th, 2025 meeting.
Madam Chair, we've received a copy of the minutes for March 4th, 2025. I move their adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 She also said aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Prosecutor's recommendations.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we've got a report from the prosecutor. There are 85 violations, $47,000 collected, and there are no items of note. Move acceptance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no.
Box lit up, so she's talking, I'm not hearing very well.
Motion carries. Marjorie, can you talk for a second?
Yes, can you hear me? Can't
We
hear me?
can't hear you. She's not on mute, but
Can she give a thumbs up?
Can you hear me
That she's
now?
on the vote?
Commissioner,
Can you give us a thumbs up and I'll acknowledge it?
She has
All right.
to be seen and heard.
she has to be seeing her, but we have a quorum in the room.
Okay.
Chris is
Next,
on, he's probably, maybe he's helping Christine keep it done.
okay. Next item, hearing judge recommendations, BR 1599847, Tiffany Logan, findings of fact.
Madam Chair, on behalf of Marjorie, she held a hearing. This was a case where there were two violations within 10 years of intoxication. I move acceptance of the findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion, the consideration of applications, 730 renewal applications.
Madam Chair, I incorporate by reference this list of 730 applications for renewal, which have been recommended by local boards and reviewed by said staff with authority of the commission. I hereby move for approval of the same pending any needed escrow hearings and further move for inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of today's meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Thumb up.
Aye. Can you hear me?
Okay,
Marjorie approved.
74 new and transfer applications.
I incorporate by reference this list of 74 permit applications for new permit or applications for changes in ownership or location or both for existing permits. Those have been recommended by local boards and reviewed by a commissioner. I hereby move for approval of the same pending a final floor plan approval by the state excise police and an escrow hearing if needed. And I further move for inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of today's meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Commissioner Magnan approved.
Can you hear me?
We have to hear her.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We're not on.
The television.
I mean, I have the microphone on.
I switched to my
Let me just
phone.
try it first. It's probably not this, but you know, just for the sake of it.
If it is, maybe, I don't know.
Where's the thing? Why? Oh. Sorry.
That's like me with my remote at home.
I'm not gonna let him look at my bank account.
No, yeah. You're gonna be in trouble.
Of course I'm talking.
What in the world? That should have, here, I got it. I'm sorry.
That's when I hand it to my wife and say, please fix it.
Scroll over to PC.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. The volume,
Can you hear me
control
now?
doesn't appear to exist. Oh, great. There you go.
Good job.
Yeah, good job, right?
That's
I don't know what to do the issue.
Is
No.
the output audio on the owl set up correctly?
I mean, I have open microphones. This one's open, this one's open.
I think we're gonna keep moving.
Just keep moving, keep
I mean, we have,
We can also, we have a form there.
Yeah. 63 catering applications.
I do incorporate by reference this list of 63 permit applications for catering. Hereby move for approval of the same and inclusion of this list as part of today's meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Thumbs up.
One carrier application.
I incorporate by reference this long list of one new and renewal carrier permits, hereby move approval of the same inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of today's meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
say no. Motion carries. 179 direct wine shipper applications.
I incorporate by reference this list of 179 new and renewal direct wine shippers permits, hereby move for approval of the same and inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of today's meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Waivers of fees for letters of extension.
We received a report on the waivers of fees and letter of extension. I move approval of same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Items for discussion. The first item for discussion is RR 4941603, La Mercida LLC. This is new with the local board voting 4-0 to deny following 4 failures to appear. Our officer visited the location. There was no orange sign and there was a 4 leaf sign present. I would move to uphold the denial.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 4927664, El Chispas No. 2 LLC. This is a renewal with the local board voting 4-0 to deny. I will note from the local board hearing, 2 years ago, there were multiple issues with minors being in the location. This is a 21 and over establishment. The owner indicated that the issue was the security that they hired. They were granted a 1-year renewal by the local board. They came back at the end of the 1 year. They had a violation for not having the minimum food, the hot soup, hot sandwiches. They did not meet that minimum food. At that time, the local board again granted them a 1-year renewal, stating that if it was minors, they would have denied, but since it was a different issue, they granted a 1-year renewal. Now the business was back, and again, had an issue with, minors in the location. They again blamed the security company. They had purchased scanners. But the minor that was in the location was 20 years old, using her mom's ID, which would have put her at 42. So real IDs scan, but
Was meaningless.
they're not the right person. So the local board voted 4-0 to deny, based on basically the prior admonishments that if you have minors, it's gonna be a big issue for us. At this point, I see no reason to overturn the local board, and would move to uphold the denial.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is DL 4932133, Raj Saru Inc., renewal with the local board voting 4-0 to deny. This one also comes to us from Marion County. There were 2 violations. The first one was a failed sack check. The clerk sold alcohol to a minor. During that incident, the business refused to identify the clerk, and rather than addressing it with the minor present, they came back on a different date to try to ascertain the identity of the clerk. They went in, it was the same gentleman behind the counter, still wearing the logo of the business. But they still refused to identify the clerk, refused, at least initially, to allow excise to do an inspection. They attempted to hide receipts. The receipts were for a large volume of canceled transactions, as well as transactions that all ended in even increments of 50s, 100s, which would be quite the coincidence for a day. While they were still trying to ascertain the identity of the clerk that sold to the youth, the owner that was present at the time told the employee to go home. And I believe to this day, we do not have the proper identity of the clerk. During the second investigation, as well as during the hearing, the owner indicated that he was not an employee. Well, at the beginning of the hearing, he stated that the employee was in training and did not ID and that he has been terminated. By the end of the hearing, the owner was testifying that he was not an employee, and that he was just there learning and observing. However, he was the one that sold to the minor, made the transaction. He was behind the counter both days. He was wearing the logo. So the local board did not feel like they were getting honest and truthful answers from the owner. It's a father-son ownership team, and the son was present at the hearing. And so they voted to deny. At this point, I don't see any reason to overturn the local board. And so I guess, is there any further discussion?
I noted that they also have a tobacco permit. I'm wondering why we shouldn't take action on the tobacco permit as well.
I think we can look into the tobacco permit. There was reference that they were checking the tobacco to make sure that it was all properly tax stamped. I don't know what came of that during the hearing, but we can look at the TC permit.
Okay.
With
that, I would second your motion.
Right,
From vote.
it's been moved and seconded to, uphold the local board denial. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is DL 11-33019, Jatinder Kumar. This is a transfer of location with the local board voting 3-0 to approve with remonstrators present. There was some discussion during this. These remonstrators were similar to, if not the same as remonstrators on a prior hearing we had. This time there was testimony that one of them has a church on their lot where they also have a auto repair. I think there was concern from the local board that it wasn't really a church. However, I would like some time to look into what operates there and whether they qualify under the legal interpretations of a church. So I would move that we continue that 2 weeks until the 4/1 commission meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is DL 85-33895. Gender Singh, new with the local board voting 3-0 to approve as location pending. There were remonstrators present, but I don't think they made any statements to the permittee's character, which would be what we consider here. So I would move to uphold the local board's approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. DL 85-33894, Multani Liquors Incorporated. This is new with the local board voting 3-0 to approve. This matter was the same or had common ownership with the one we just approved. This was a package store with an identified location, and there were remonstrators present that did not want the packaged liquor store in their neighborhood. There were also remonstrators in favor of the location, as well as a petition, which clearly identified what the petition was for and what the location would be, signed by a significant number of people in favor of the location. The local board, voted 3-0 to approve. And at this time, I don't see any reason to overturn the local board. So I would move to uphold the local board's approval. There,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. The next permit, RC 6189315, AMVETS Park County Post number 61 Incorporated. This is a renewal with the local board voting 3-0 to deny. It seemed on this one, there was a pretty thorough investigation by Rockville PD into a hit and run. The investigation of the hit and run accident led them back to an investigation of over service at the bar, which was then referred to excise. There were also issues of purchasing retail to retail with claims that the ATC told them they could. They had multiple receipts from other dealer locations where they purchased alcohol. They were also refilling bottles. What we identified was the same brand, and they thought they could do that just under, it's not false what's in the bottle. However, every bottle is its own bottle and you can't refill. They, by their own admissions, don't keep copies of the employee permits. They did not have a manager's questionnaire for the manager that was working. So those were the identified violations. There was significant discussion about continued allegations of drug activity at the location. The representatives of the fraternal club seemed surprised by the allegations of the drug activity. It did not seem like the police had been able to identify who was dealing or had any arrests on those issues. So I don't give much weight to the drug activity, but the other violations considered by the local board, I don't see a reason to overturn their decision to deny at this time. And so I would move to uphold the local board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next permit for consideration is RR 7940754 DA Brown LLC. This is a renewal with local board voting 3-1 to approve for 1 year. This is a Mexican restaurant in Tippecanoe County. There was a party, they made reservations, they came in, and there were several minors involved with the party. Testimony at the hearing was that they've made significant changes to how they operate since that time, including eliminating pitchers and large servings, requiring wristbands, second forms of ID, I believe were discussed during this hearing. And the local board voted 3-1 to approve for 1 year, with our officer being the one to vote against the renewal. I understand his reluctance and his no vote. I'm concerned this is the second meeting in a row where we've had a restaurant near a college decide to go down this route and have young people in for a party and serve them drinks. And I hope this isn't a trend. I would advise call your clients in college towns, and it's spring and people are gonna be ready to get out. Let's not start a trend on this, but I don't see any reason to overturn the local board. They seem satisfied with the changes. So I would move approval for 1 year.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I would oppose the local board's decision with the numbers involved in this party, this almost had to be reoccurrence. Manager still employed as a manager at that location. The manager was the one who was on duty, so I have serious questions about whether this really was just happened to happen, or whether it's an ongoing thing. So I would side with Officer Gillen in this case.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no.
No,
Motion carries on a 2-1. Next permit is DL 2931993, Ajay Petroleum Incorporated. The local board is requesting remand. This was sent to us, I believe, on a denial. However, something happened to the recording. The issues were apparently complicated, and the local board officer has concerns that one of the members, or at least one of the members, was confusing different violations, maybe creating an unclear record, even if we had the recording. So with that, I would move remand for a rehearing on this matter.
second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I would just note for the record that the excise officers requested this remand. So I agree.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next permit is RR 4937227, the Salty Lemon. This comes on for a proposed order to place the permit into escrow, grant permission to transfer the license, and withdraw the appeal. I would open that matter for discussion.
This appeal is pending before me. Counsel who represents the Salty Lemon has filed this motion to place permit into escrow, grant permission to transfer license, and withdraw the appeal. I have granted that order, subject of course to the commission's adoption or not. But I think it's the right thing to do in this situation.
I will note, we became aware, and this seems relatively recent, that there is a new violation issued at the location. So I'm torn on this because I like the escrow piece, especially if violations are continuing. However, they need to resolve that violation. So I guess, can we make it conditioned on resolution of the new violation, either through a settlement or a hearing?
I guess we could, but I'd rather not delay putting them into escrow.
Well, can we grant part of it and condition the other pieces?
Sure. I'm willing to modify my order to grant that, in light of this new violation. I'm certainly willing to amend my order to grant the request to place the permit into escrow and take the request for permission to transfer license and withdraw appeal under advisement.
I would second that.
Second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to place the permit into escrow and take under advisement the grant permission to transfer the license and withdraw appeal pending resolution of the new violation. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for consideration is RR 2742252, Bliss Barn LLC. They are requesting catering hall designation and submitted a letter. I would move granting the same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for consideration is RR 3041836, Depot Street Investments LLC. This matter comes on requesting catering hall designation. They submitted a letter. I will move same.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for consideration is DL 413220 Franklin Smoke Time Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request. It was continued from our 3/4/25 meeting. Our concerns were that the allegations were that they were operating as a tobacco store, not a grocery store, and didn't meet the qualifications to continue holding their permit. Our attorney sent an email, or it sent a letter requesting a corrective action plan on that matter. We've been in touch with an attorney who requested that this consideration be continued until 4/1. So I would move that we continue this to 4/1 with the understanding that they still have no authority to sell alcohol at this time.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 4933618, Joe Halloran Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request. This is the second extension. Prior to the first extension, we did have a corrective action plan and granted the extension. Currently, the denial is scheduled for a substantive or final hearing on May 8th, so that is moving in a timely manner. I would move granting the second extension request.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Just that I'm abstaining is in light of the fact that I'm handling this case.
Right. Marjorie's giving a thumbs up.
I've been told that the issue with the audio is only on our end and that everyone else can hear her. So hopefully the recordings.
So potentially the recording is picking it up.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Good call, Ashley.
If not, on this one with the quorum, we can, take the vote today and issue an LOA if it's not recorded properly and take another vote next week. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Say aye for us, Marjorie, so the recording
Aye.
can pick you up.
She said I can call
Aye.
you on the cell phone, put it on. That's what she said on it.
I could also try logging in and having my volume on my computer and see if that works, or we just call her.
We're gonna get a feedback loop if you start picking us up, so that gets complicated. But yeah, Marjorie, if you wanna call me. I'll move on to the next one. We'll clarify that vote when we can. Okay, Marjorie, can you turn your audio off on your computer? Joe Halloran. All right, thank you. Next permit for consideration is RR 4938386, Carnicera y Tienda Mi Mexico LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request. This was, this is a third permit with common ownership to two we considered last time. At the last meeting, we were considering extensions and we requested a corrective action plan. On the other two, I don't believe we have received a corrective action plan to date. However, this one does not have a tax hold, and last meeting there was one with a tax hold. The pending violations, we have received settlement agreements and fines. In the settlement agreements, there was an agreement that these matters would all be returned to local board and considered for character of the applicant as if it was a new application. The issue was failure to disclose convictions on the initial application. So with that understanding on this one, I would move that we grant the 90-day extension with the understanding that all 3 permits are gonna be set back for local board for consideration as if it was a new permit.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next permit for consideration is RR 50-02170 Mayflower Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request. The local board did want them to come back in, and so that was reset. They were previously operating on a 1-year renewal. Local board is currently set for April 7th of 2025. However, we are still missing the certificate of insurance. A letter was sent at the beginning of December. That was the form letter for anybody who had not previously submitted. And then we requested it specifically from this permittee on December 30th of 2024. So at this time, I would move that we grant the 90-day extension, but conditioned on receipt of that certificate of insurance. And when we get that, it will issue.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Marjorie votes yes.
All right, Marjorie votes yes as well. So I will show that that is granted condition on receipt of the certificate of insurance. Next permit for consideration is RR 4501021 Menchaca Limited. This matter comes on for an extension request. This is the 3rd extension request. This is a situation where the permit holder was administratively dissolved by the Secretary of State. Their attorney has worked to create a new corporation, has a transfer on file to permit RR 4542243. That is set for a transfer hearing for the Lake County Local Board on May 7th of 2025. However, we still do not have a certificate of insurance on that matter. So I would move that we grant the 90-day extension conditioned on receipt of the certificate of insurance.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Marjorie votes yes.
Marjorie votes yes. So I will show that that passes 4-0. Next permit for discussion is, well, there are 2, I will call them together. It's RR 4936592, 8501 Pendleton Club LLC, and RR 4936594, 7259 Pendleton Club LLC. These both come on for an extension request. They were previously on, and we continued them to today, hoping to have a vote from the local board. However, the March 3rd local board meeting was continued to April because of the issuance of a new violation under permit ending in 592. On that matter, the violation is so new, there is not a settlement offer out or a settlement conference set, so it couldn't have been resolved to this point. So I would move granting the remainder of the 90 days on both of those permits.
Do we know how long that is? Is that
I would have,
a couple weeks? That's okay. I'd say. Second.
I guess, I mean, it will take time to get these. I don't think we have a second extension and payment. But if we want to proactively consider if they file a second request and pay, if we want to consider that, I think it was,
According to my notes, the first extension expired on January 30th of this year. It's been continued, the local board's been continued twice. Last time was to March 3rd. Was that continued because the owner wasn't present as
Yes.
requested?
well, it was continued because they just got a new violation.
And the owner also failed to appeal. That's correct.
Correct.
Well, think it may have been requested, but at the last minute, because they just were issued the violations.
Well, it was my understanding that it was continued to March 3rd because the hearing before that, the local board requested that the owner appear at that March 3rd hearing. And it's my understanding that the owner didn't appear on March 3rd. Am I wrong or am I right?
I think there was a requested continuance. I don't know if the local board felt that they didn't grant it.
So we're unclear. Is that a fair statement?
Yes,
Okay.
they did request a continuance, but maybe the local board,
The owners requested a continuance of that March 3rd hearing?
yes, because they just received a violation the week before and wanted to address the violation.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess at this point, let's just grant or my motion would be, to grant the remainder of the current 90-day extension. And when we receive a new extension request, we'll clarify for the attorney what that date looks like on the current extension.
One of them expires today. Sorry, I'm trying to.
Well, but that we get granted a partial of the 90 days.
Okay. I can
So
look at that.
today's expiration is not the full 90 days.
Could have been roughly,
It was 2/20/25 was when it was noticed then, and then so.
So whatever, 90 days is from
I'll do my day
2/20/25.
calculator real quick. Well, you guys can move on if you want, and I'll do a day calculation.
All right, so my motion is the remainder of the 90 days for both of them. Is there a second?
Second.
On May 21st.
Okay, so that would be until May 21st
For both of them, correct?
for both. And I will note there is not a pending violation on permit ending in 594. But I don't know if the local board wants to track both together. If they think the new violation might go to character on both, I don't know. It's also new that I don't know.
Correct. Still second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
with the understanding that the owner had moved for a continuance of that March 3rd hearing ahead of time, then I will agree to vote.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Marjorie votes yes.
Right, Marjorie votes yes. Next permit for consideration is RR 23790, Robert Hawkins. This matter comes on for an extension request. This needs an extension because there is a violation pending. That violation was referred by the Fort Wayne Police Department. The violation, it looks like, was issued by excise on September 30th of 24. Settlement offer was sent November 20th of 24 with a settlement conference of December 23rd of 2024. No one appeared for the settlement conference. The prosecutor then had to send a letter notifying the permittee of the failure to appear for settlement conference. The allegations are scope of permit and public nuisance. Since then, attempts to resolve the issue. There was one phone call and some voicemails back and forth, most recently with the prosecutor leaving a voicemail for the owner. But no substantial progress has been made in resolving that violation.
Has the owner been in communication? Or is it one-way communication
There's been one phone call back in, I believe, January or February
from the owner?
from the owner.
Okay.
So that was the only time that the parties have spoken outside the voicemails back and forth. And the owner had left voicemails here as well.
Okay.
So
We also need a corrective action plan.
we do not have a corrective action plan on this matter. So I think at this point, my motion would be to continue this matter until, given the nature of the violations, the failure to appear for the settlement conference, and not really engaging in the process to this point, I would move that we continue consideration of the extension until the April 1st meeting.
Second.
And then during that time, I would like to see a corrective action plan submitted, as well as maybe a pre-hearing conference set to get the attention of the owner. Schedule a time for them to appear, and see if maybe a settlement or a pre-hearing conference will get things moving on the violation. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I'm going to reluctantly, vote yes on this, but I don't understand what they're doing. There are hundreds and thousands of permittees who follow the rules, and this gentleman or owner is just not complying. Very frustrating.
So do you understand my motion?
Yes.
It's not to grant an extension, but
Yes.
just to continue it?
No, I didn't understand that. Okay. Okay, then I.
So you don't have to be reluctant, okay?
I'm still reluctant. I've been called worse today.
So with that, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Marjorie votes yes.
Opposed, vote no. Motion passes. Next permit for consideration, RH 5330229, HHM Management Sub LLC. We did receive the missing information and that was renewed, so we do not need to consider that extension. Next matter is RR 4939282 Ice Bar and Lounge LLP. This matter comes on for an extension request. They also hold CT 4932468. There are violations, I believe, on both the RR permit and the CT permit. Those allegations are for, I don't know exactly what the violations
nudity.
were on the CT, but it was generally for adult entertainment without following the human trafficking requirements. And then on the RR, there were violations issued for hindering. The permittee failed to appear for a settlement conference, was sent a letter from the prosecutor and has now engaged in that process. And it is set for a contested hearing. She submitted a letter, which isn't quite a corrective action plan. It's still just a letter denying the violations, but not advising how we can be sure they won't happen. She is not currently represented by an attorney, so I'm not sure what information she had about corrective action plans at that point. At this point, this is where I will say reluctantly, because she is actively engaged in the process on the violation, move to grant a 2-week extension or until April 1st, and ask for more detail on the corrective action plan.
I remain reluctant. I will. vote
Is the
yes. I don't
2-week
find the letter of March 11th, 2025 purporting to be a corrective action plan at all meeting the spirit, much less the language of the corrective action plan. It merely states over and over, hey, we did all this, we haven't done anything wrong. But I will agree to the 2-week time frame to present an acceptable corrective action.
is the
Second.
2-week,
Okay, it's been moved and
is the
seconded.
2-week extension Is the 2-week extension on both the RR permit and the CT permit?
Reluctantly, at this point, I would make the motion yes on both.
Thank you.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Marjorie, yes.
I'm abstaining, giving my hand.
All right, so I will show that that passed 3-0 with 1 abstaining for a 2-week extension. Next permit for consideration is RR 4911398 Tri Entertainment doing business as Land Sharks. This matter comes on for a request to transfer following denial.
I am handling this case, but I will explain its current status. There is an appeal pending from a denial of local board. The permittee has filed a request with us for permission to transfer. And what they have to do according to our rules is file a motion for permission to file a transfer. They have gone further and that is prepared. They have provided all the supporting documentation, including the arm's length transaction, the affidavit that is arm's length transaction, the current status for the sale of the bona fide purchase. They've done everything. We have talked about putting this on the agenda and voting on it today, that for authority to file a transfer. But this morning, late just before the hearing, it was pointed out that there's still pending the violation that was the result of the denial at the local board. And that should be resolved. We had a similar case just earlier in the docket. So I'm going to request that this matter be continued to April 1st for the opportunity for the prosecutor and the permittee to discuss that violation with the understanding that time is of the essence to get this done with the proposed purchaser and to get this transferred. So I move to continue this to April 1st with the documents currently already submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I would point out the difference between this one and the one earlier in the dockets. These violations there's some age on them.
Right.
Yeah, they are also very significant. So I think looking at transferring before resolving the violations is kind of putting the cart before the horse here.
And I apologize that we didn't catch that earlier. We could have worked to resolve that also.
So with that, the motion is to continue it until April 1st. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Marjorie, yes.
Marjorie's a yes, so that passes 4-0. Next permit for consideration is RR 3228238 High Orchid LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request. Can we take it by consent to add that to the agenda?
Consent.
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 This is an extension request. They had a violation which is now resolved. That was for a failure of a SAC check. They missed the local board where they were needed to appear, and now they need the extension to appear at the next local board hearing. I would move we grant a 90-day extension.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Marjorie, yes.
This was a shot across the bow, so to speak, as to their failure to attend the local board hearing. That's very inexcusable.
So can I characterize it as reluctant?
You can.
Okay.
So and during that, Marjorie also said for the record that Marjorie was a yes. So if that passes 4-0. Next item for discussion is RR 4931238 Sunny Ventures Limited renewal with the local board voting 3-1 to approve for 1 year. Can we take it by consent to add that to the agenda?
Consent.
Consent.
I will show that added to the agenda by consent. This matter, one of the things happening during all of this is that the owners were involved in a divorce. The husband is now no longer involved in the operations of the business. The wife is now running the business and has made some changes to how the operations will happen. Most of the discussion or a significant part of the discussion involved over service to a patron who was in the location. And then there was also discussion, it is a hookah bar. The smoking exemption was not properly on file. So they had a floor plan approval, but not the smoking ban approval. That has now been resolved, and the new owner has indicated that they have new policies. The employees involved in that situation are no longer employed there. And she is taking better care to track the employee permit records, the filings, the smoking ban exemption, and all of that. So the majority of the local board felt a 1-year renewal was appropriate, given all of those circumstances. Oh, I'm sorry. I should also note that this sales to the intoxicated person also involved a fight where the intoxicated customer went and got a gun from his car. So it was a pretty significant situation. And then there were issues with not supplying the video, relying on excise to advise them how their video system worked, which these are law enforcement officers, not your IT tech people. But the local board seemed comfortable with the changes in ownership as well as operations. So a majority voted 3-1 to approve. While I understand the one members vote to deny, I don't see any reason to overturn at this time. So I would move that we uphold the 1-year approval by the local board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Marjorie, yes.
Marjorie is a yes. I will show that approved. Unless I'm missing anything else, I'm going to move on to inactive files. Inactive files, there are 24 permits to be made inactive that were previously announced at 3/24/2025 meeting, and I would move the same.
Second.
I just note for the record, they were read at the 3-4.
Oh, 3/4, thank you. I'll amend my motion.
Accepted.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Marjorie, yes.
Marjorie's a yes. That passes 4-0. There's an announcement for, it is now 25 permits to be made inactive on 4/1/2025. Permit CH 4930115 has complied with what we needed and can be removed. Announcements, there are some meetings that are changed there. Not seeing any other items on the agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Marjorie votes yes.
Marjorie's a yes. We are adjourned.
Very efficient, well done.
Are you gonna start doing FedEx commercials?
Or just any sort of disclaimer.
Yeah, I'll just